All right, so we are on James O'Keefe's new Twitter, O'Keefe Media Group. Let's watch the video.
So we have men rapists, men murderers, child rapists, men who have killed women and are in prison for raping and killing women who get put in our rooms.
James O'Keefe, OMG News here. Have you heard of the Washington State Correctional Center for Women, which has been in the news for its policy to place men who identify as women in the same prison, sometimes even the same cell as biological women?
Imagine coming to your room one day and you're in close custody and you turn around and there's a man standing up peeing in the toilet because you have the bathroom is in your room and CCU.
What?
There's nothing you can do.
What you just heard and what you're about to hear are multiple inmates describing their experiences with transgendered women, formerly known as men, within the women's prison. WCCW has been the tip of the spear with inclusivity in the prison system. To protect the at-risk individuals involved, we've taken steps to conceal the identities of the sources and the inmates.
I know there's some having sex with women. There was some, assaulting, but no one reported it. It's normally in institutions you have segregations are always going to apply, no matter what institution that you're at, all across America. But somehow in this institution, they are adapting ways to apply these so-called mandated laws that came out of nowhere to prohibit segregation for certain individuals. Let's just say sex offenders. Usually sex offenders are not in general population. They're always in a population of their own. Some of these men are not confused. They're just manipulating the system, but it's not equal because...
Okay, so is this not a violation of the Eighth Amendment, which talks about cruel and unusual punishment? There are men who, just because they say that they're women, which biological reality exists and will always exist, and no, men can never become women, ever. But yet, because of the woke virus that's going around and everyone's catching it, we have the corrections center allowing this cruel and unusual punishment to occur. And this inmate is exposing the fact that some of the men who are coming in here are not even really transgender, which again, nobody is really transgender because it's all made up and false. It's a confusion of the mind. The whole premise of transgender nowadays is the fact that you can actually become a woman. So you're actually a woman if you say you are. So you actually would be housed with real biological women. And this is the problem with disassociating from reality. When we accept the delusion of people who are confused, who have a mental illness, and we take that to its logical conclusion, of course this is going to be the case. Because we have so blurred the lines in our society of what is a man and what is a woman that, I mean, why wouldn't a man be able to be housed with a woman, even if he's a rapist, even if we're violating the Eighth Amendment? It's absurd.
We don't get the same care and treatment that the trans get in here.
Yeah, because don't they get special bras, special everything, special...
Everything. They kind of cater to the trans community. All you have to do is say that you are a woman, that you now, when you're in counties, say that you identify as a woman and you can come straight to here from county. You don't, the guys don't even have to go to the men's prison first.
What?
Some of these men know that they're men. They're not trying to be a woman. They just say that to come here, to have sex with women during their prison sentence. There's nothing you can do but say you're going to kill yourself and then go down to the crazy unit to get out that room.
That's
And
like...
if you refuse to go back in there, you get a major, you get in trouble. I told all this to the assistant secretary.
What'd they say?
This is things they're going to look into. I shouldn't have to go to the horde and back days because I don't want to live with the man. I don't have anything against him. I just don't want to sleep in there with him.
That is absolutely horrific. That is insane. To suggest that, number one, the claim that she's making is that not only are they allowed to be housed with them, but they get preferential treatment. They get special bras and things like that. And she'll go into that later too. If you say you're going to kill yourself because that's the only way that you can get away from these men who are rapists, who are child rapists, who are murderers, the only way you can get away from them is to say that you're crazy and then you get put in solitary? I don't know how you feel about solitary confinement. I don't even know how I feel about solitary confinement, but that in itself is said to be cruel and unusual punishment. And we're putting women in there because they don't want to be housed with men, not because they have done anything to deserve it. I mean, you can make a case that being in jail, you set yourself up in that way, but even then, I mean, come on. Cruel and unusual punishment. I mean, to me, it fits the bill.
We wrestled over the decision to do this story. It was a painful and difficult one, because despite our best efforts, the possibility of retaliation always exists. But the thought of letting this continue and allowing women who are confined to be raped with impunity was unconscionable to us, and the women themselves, knowing the risks, agreed to let their interviews be used.
My safety is now in jeopardy because I cannot voice my freedom of speech, but it doesn't apply anymore because now they're implementing this new gender equality role that forces us to conform to what they want us to believe in about the transgender. I've heard some of these men talk about how they would want to get a girl pregnant so that the girl could form a lawsuit against WCCW and say that he raped her and he's willing to go along with it. He's pretty much the mastermind behind his own scandal.
This is what happens when we literally cave to insanity. This is what happens when we feed the delusion that men can be women, and we have people in positions of authority, in power, who are cowards, who do not want to be, called out for being anti-LGBTQ. Then we have actual victims. Then we have actual chaos, actual darkness that ensues because we didn't stand up for goodness and what's right and true.
For the few of them who sat and talked about these certain types of things to do in order to get a so the slang word that they're calling it is $1 million baby.
Did you just hear that? $1 million baby. So these criminals are calling themselves transgender in an effort to rape women or have sex with women, so that they can get pregnant, so that the women can file a lawsuit and get paid for having that baby. And I don't know how the transgender person would play into that, but whatever. They're, like she said, the mastermind behind their own scandal. That is crazy. That's crazy.
$1 million baby play. That's the slang term that they're using. And this is something that you really need to raise awareness to. A lot of the men and the women, the men institution are literally coming up with strategies in order to conform to the transgender thing. They're taking all the necessary steps that they have to in order to get on the applications and the lists and things like that, to go through the whole process just to get here, just to do that. We don't have a voice. We don't have a leg to stand on. Anytime we voice these types of things, we are met with ridicule, targeting, bias, punishment, solitary confinement. The medical here at WCCW is the poorest in the country. We don't get our needs met. The men have better action at getting all of their needs met versus a woman going through menopause. She can't even get an estrogen shot for her menopause to deal with hot flashes and the different things going on with the woman's body, but a man can get it? No, that shouldn't even be in America. And I know America is the land of opportunity and dreams and all of that things, but no.
Our hearts go out to the trans community as they are under attack right now. But this is a president who has said many times before he has their backs. He will continue to have their backs, and he will continue to fight for them. And his record shows that.
We reached out to Washington Corrections Center for Women, to Public Disclosure Coordinator Melissa Johnson for comment, and we still have not heard from her. Perhaps the citizen journalist OMG Army could raise some questions and ask for comment themselves.
Insanity. This is evil. This is actually evil. Gosh, cowardly and just vile. This is vile. We are literally pretending to be a country that stands for righteousness. and you have literally, I love how they played this clip, because this is exactly the problem here, okay? I actually got a comment, and it was regarding drag shows, which I have some feelings about, but, you know, basically saying, well, don't go to the drag shows. And it's like, don't hate on transgender people. What's your problem? It's just like, who cares? I care. Why? Because this insanity is being pushed by the government. And this has real world consequences. You guys want to push this on our kids? You guys want to push this on females who have no choice but to accept it? Whether that's in sports, whether that's in prison, it's insane. It is literally insane. And if you don't know who these two people are, by the way, funny story, these people are White House officials. This is, is it the HHS secretary named Rachel Levine, who is a biological man. I shouldn't even have to say biological. This is a man who thinks that they are a woman, and they are pushing this down the pipeline to everyone else. I wonder how connected this person's authority and their gender nonsense is affecting this very real situation with women's prisons. And the person next to him, this bald-headed guy in a dress, and this is again a man, was another man who was fired for stealing women's luggage out of the airport. I don't know, crazy story. But these are the people who are running the show here. These are the people who are in our government, who have a dark delusion that for some reason we are caving to as a society, and it has very dark consequences, and it's victimizing more people.